Hi everybody, welcome to Indycar on Monday the 23rd of July 2018. I'm Gordon Ross and today we're talking about flamingos. Well actually we're not, we're talking about Flamingoland and whether or not Flamingoland should be taking over part of one of our national parks and building a theme park inside it. Now I'm talking about Loch Lomond here, and those of you who follow social media might already be aware that there is a campaign being launched to save Loch Lomond from the development of a theme park on its shores. At the south end of Loch Lomond is a piece of land which was formerly owned by the rail company which ran the railway trains to the pier at Balloch, where people would get off and get onto the Maid of the Loch for a trip up the loch for pleasure purposes. Now, obviously those days are long gone and that piece of land had fallen into some disrepair. It eventually fell into the hands of what used to be Dumbarton District Council before the reorganisation split Dumbartonshire into two pieces. In other words, before the gerrymandering took place, Dumbarton District Council actually owned the land. But at some point in the distant past, well actually the not too distant past, that council decided to transfer that asset, that land, into the ownership of Scottish Enterprise. And they did that for the princely sum of, wait for it, £1. They sold the land to Scottish Enterprise for £1. Now, most of the residents in the local area probably weren't even aware of this at all, but at the time when the land was in the custody or in the ownership of the local authority, it was intended to be preserved as a piece of public land owned by the local authority ostensibly, but owned on behalf of the people and for their use, for their recreation and for whatever purpose the local people deemed worthy for that piece of land. It's an area of land which faces onto the loch and it's inside the national park boundary. Now what has come to light is that in recent months Flamingoland has signed a deal with Scottish Enterprise. Now, Scottish Enterprise, remember, was set up originally by the British government to bring inward investment into Scotland. Now what that means is it was designed to attract big multinationals or foreign companies to locate in Scotland by offering them sweeteners, offering them cheap land, cheap premises, tax breaks, all kinds of sweeteners to get them to invest in Scotland. And what seems to have happened now is that having acquired the land for virtually nothing from Dumbarton Council, Scottish Enterprise has decided to sign a completely confidential deal with Flamingoland, which is an English theme park operator, which operates very successful theme parks all over the United Kingdom, to build a theme park and a lot of hotels and other buildings on this site without any consultation with local people whatsoever. And it seems that the major problem here is that there hasn't been any consultation, there hasn't been any permission sought. As my understanding is at the moment, the information coming from the organisers of the protest committee is that what has happened is that members of the board which runs the national park, some of them, have been co-opted onto a separate board, supposedly independent, which then looked at the planning application for this particular development and has approved it. Again, approved it without any consultation with local people, and it's been done very much on the quiet, without anybody really knowing that they could object to it, and without any thought, apparently, for the environmental consequences of a development of this type at the lochside in the middle of a national park, an area of outstanding natural beauty, an area of outstanding scientific interest, and a massive natural resource for the people of the west of Scotland to come and enjoy the pleasures of the wildlife and the peace of the loch. And that is to be shattered by thrill rides, candy floss stalls, loud music, hotels, car parks, and all the things that go with theme parks being attracted to this part of the loch, which was supposed to be a piece of land gifted to people in perpetuity for the use of the public in Balloch, has been sold out without anybody's permission to a big corporation for a sum that we are not allowed to know because they've signed a non-disclosure agreement with Flamingoland, which means that there is no transparency. We do not know what Scottish Enterprise has offered Flamingoland to locate. We don't know how much of our public taxpayers' money has been waved in front of Flamingoland to get them to take this piece of land and develop it. We have no transparency whatsoever in this case. Now, where else do you know that would allow a huge theme park to be developed in the middle of an area of outstanding natural beauty? There is no other place that would permit it. I've just come back from a trip to the Lake District, and the Lake District has been developed fairly thoroughly all around the lakes, and I was at Windermere, but it's been done in a way which fits in with the local scenery. The houses have to be built out of the same stone as the local houses. Everything has to match in, and all developments have to be suitably landscaped, and they have to be suitably environmentally friendly for the area that they fit into. So there's marinas, there's sailing, and there are other water sports activities which all fit within the parameters of a national park. Here in Loch Lomond, that has been thrown out of the window in favour of bringing the big money in and selling out a piece of public land owned by the local people without their permission to a big corporation from south of the border. Now, it's not just about the type of development this is, because that, although that is important, we don't want this kind of development taking place in an area of outstanding natural beauty. But it's not just about that. It's about the selling out of the land. It's about it being picked up, taken away by an unaccountable secret organisation called Scottish Enterprise, which will not tell anybody what it's been doing, how it's been doing it, for fear of supposedly breaking a commercial confidence. Now, there are no other theme parks bidding to get into Loch Lomond's site, but they have been given the best, what do they call it now, the most favoured bidder status in this. In other words, they are the ones that Scottish Enterprise want to develop this site, without any single local person being asked what they thought about this. So here's the information for you. If you, like me, would object to something like this going on, and it's a national park, remember, then this is what to do. In the first instance, send an email to planning@lochlomond-trossachs.org and outline what your complaint is. When you make a complaint to this, make sure that you include your name, your address, and the planning reference number, which I'll give you now. The planning reference number is 2018. Okay, so 2018/0133/PPP. And if you include that reference number, then the objections will be noted. Now, another thing that you can do, as well as that, or instead of it, is to email your own MSP, whoever that is, whatever party they're from. Remember, this is not a party political issue. This is an issue about the use of a piece of beautiful environment which is going to be ruined by this loud, inappropriate development right on its banks. This is about that. You can also, as I say, email your MSP to complain, to get this stopped, to object to it. Your MSP is bound by law to record that he has replied or she has replied to your email and is taking some action on it. Now, some MSPs have already been approached, and some other political leaders have been approached and spoken about it, and one or two in the local council have now changed their minds at the top and decided to object to this as well. Another thing that you can do if you're interested in preventing this from happening is to join the Facebook page Save Loch Lomond. And I would urge you to do that. That will allow you to get in touch with the organisers of the protest, and we're really trying to get the message as far and wide across Scotland at the moment as possible. At the present time, it's not getting much airtime, but it needs to get airtime. Otherwise, we risk one of the most beautiful parts of Scotland being trashed forever in the interest of commercial exploitation by yet another English company coming in to exploit a part of Scotland, and by effectively taking a piece of land that belongs to the people of Ballach and using it without their permission basically taking ownership of a piece of Scottish land that belonged to the people without their permission and without any kind of legal redress for the people who actually that land belongs to. Those of you who know my show and have followed me for a number of years know that I often have big schemes or plans in mind for different areas, and Loch Lomond, believe it or not, is no exception. One of the plans that I have discussed in the past online and also on this show and with other people is the idea of developing that site, that particular part of the waterfront in Balloch, as Scotland's very first public municipal sailing school. Now, this doesn't sound particularly exciting when you say it like that, but what I propose is that with the help of the Scottish Government, with the local authority and with certain companies, that we commission the construction of up to 50 brand new specially designed yachts, traditionally made from timber, designed specifically to fit in with the loch itself. In other words, they have more sail area than most yachts because they're sailing on a loch which has less wind, smaller waves and all the rest of it. A specific yacht called the Loch Lomond class, which will be used to train young people to sail, those who normally would never be able to afford to go yachting anywhere. These boats would be iconic, connected entirely with Scotland and entirely with the lochs. I would plan to build about 50 of these boats. I would involve a company like Galgale in Govan, who construct timber boats in the clinker method, and they also help to rehabilitate people with drug addictions and turn them into craft people. As well as that, I would hope to see a burgeoning sailing school develop, including staff to teach children and young adults and the elderly. We can even have boats for the disabled, to develop the site in an environmentally friendly way, and also to create another small fleet of similar boats, which would be for sale to syndicates of people. People who normally wouldn't be able to buy a yacht of their own could buy, say, a quarter of a boat or a sixth of a boat and have part of a partnership in owning it and racing it, learning to sail the loch every day of the year virtually, unless the loch freezes over. This could become the first of a series of internal loch sailing centres, which are entirely municipal, free to young people, free to the elderly, free to people to come and learn, where we use the ownership of the commercial boats, if you like, the ones which are for sale, to help support the actions and the running costs of the school. We can also do so by donations and by the help of local government and the parks department. So there are a number of different options that we can use. But I could see that there was a possibility to develop a new kind of rural industry around the loch, which involved both boat building in the traditional sense, expanding those skills, having a boatyard where traditional repairing and construction could take place, where young people could join as apprentices and learn the skills to construct these beautiful boats. And for people who are coming to the lochs for the first time, to see on the loch a beautiful, elegant yacht design racing across the loch, dozens of them, specifically designed to fit in with the loch. In other words, a site which is unique to Loch Lomond. I already have a design for these boats in mind, and I know plenty of people in the marine industry who would be happy to oblige, not only at Galgale, but also at Clyde Yachts, the Clinder Boatyard. There are a number of other places I could think of who would be happy to start taking on the building of a fleet like this. And I'm sure there are plenty of young people and qualified sailing instructors who'd be delighted to take on the role of teaching people at such a centre. It would provide a suitable development for this part of the loch, and I would want to include in that the complete restoration of the pier and the complete restoration of the Maid of the Loch and the opening of the pier for pleasure sailing on the loch again using the old steamer. All of these things could be done if we didn't have to put up with Scottish enterprise running roughshod over everybody and bulldozing everything out of the way to get another foreign investor to plant a huge development, an inappropriate development, in the middle of one of the most beautiful parts of Western Scotland. Anyway, that's today's show. As I say, I'll read out again the contact numbers for you in case you didn't get them the first time. If you want to email your objection, address the email to planning@lochlomond, all one word, planning-trossachs.org. Remember to include your name and address and the planning reference number 2018/0133/PPP. And if you don't get any joy with that, remember you can also email, and you probably should, email your own MSP and demand that something is done. I look forward to hearing from you again, and will be other shows probably bringing us up to date on the progress of this as time goes on. But we hope that we can stop this development before it gets any further and look at something a lot more appropriate and indigenous, which the people of Ballach will be proud to call their own. I was Gordon Ross, and that's the show for today. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye for now.